to respond. That's our attitude. The responsibility for us is ours. If it is to be, it's up to me. And those people who cannot make up their minds for fear of making the wrong choice, vacillating in indecision, they simply don't meet their goals, which is a requisite for success. Rather, they take their place among the rank and file of the also-rans, and they trudge along in bland mediocrity. When you know where you're going, and you know that you're driving, you can make decisions quickly and easily. And because of this one fact, the winners in life seem to have their minds made up automatically. They're propelled forward without hesitation because they and everyone else involved with them know where they're going and know that nothing is permitted to block their path. All individuals are what they are and where they are because of a composite of all of their own doings at one time or another in their lives. And although their innate characteristics and environment are given to them initially, the decisions that they make determine whether they actually win or lose their particular game of life. Voltaire likened life to a game of cards. Each player must accept the cards that life deals him or her. But once in hand, he or she alone must decide how to play the cards in order to win the game. The writer John Erskine put it a little differently when he wrote, "Though we sometimes speak of a primrose path, we all know that a bad life is just as difficult, just as full of work, obstacles, and hardships as a good one. The only choice is the kind of life one would care to spend one's efforts on. Whether you're a bum on Skid Row or a high achiever, or a happy individual, you can pat yourself on the back, taking the credit or the blame for your place." We took over from our parents at a much younger age than we thought, and we've been in the driver's seat ever since. You know, I didn't realize until I was about 30 that I'm behind the wheel in my life. I thought it was my genes, my horoscope, and my childhood. I should have taken a hint from my daughter when she was only 11 months old. I was a headstrong Navy fighter pilot. Used to wear my silver blue flight suit to mow the lawn so the neighbors would know that a Rambo type was living next door. I used to go out in the freeway in my Porsche Targa, looking for Honda Civics to intimidate. I wore my flight helmet with a bolt of lightning painted on it in the car on the freeway, and I'd love to ride the bumper of the car in front of me, pretending I was a Blue Angel flying formation in an air show. I'll never forget that evening when I swaggered into my kitchen in full flight gear to greet my wife and kids, who I thought would be impressed seeing their warrior in his War Games uniform. I always wore a gun in my holster with my flight suit, in case I was shot down in a real war and taken prisoner. I figured I'd shoot my way out to freedom. Well, I'm sure you get the picture of a former chauvinist who believed that he was the boss of the house. But then I've always learned the hard way. My 11-month-old younger daughter Dana was in her high chair, supposedly eating Gerber's strained squash as the main course. Instead, the squash was in my wife's hair, all over my daughter's bib, and all over the floor. "What's going on in here?" I growled, putting my flight helmet on the table. "It looks like the Vietnam War in here." My wife smiled and said, "She doesn't like Gerber's strained squash, so I'm giving her applesauce for nourishment." I couldn't believe she said that. "Give me that squash," I said. "She eats what we give her. I was raised during the post-depression years, and we were taught to clean our plate. She eats what we give her. Besides, she doesn't have taste buds yet." I took the squash, telling my wife that I'd take charge and get this simple exercise over with. I told my daughter to open up. Her gums clamped shut. I ate several bites as a role model and made slurping, approving noises. I nearly gagged. It wasn't that great tasting, but I didn't let on. I told my daughter, "It's delicious. Daddy loves it." Her defiant look said it all. It was that "go ahead, fat, so you finish it" look. Well, I'd had about enough. I asked my wife to leave the room, and being in total control of the situation, I pressed her cheeks firmly together with my 2 fingers, and I forced her mouth open. I laughed at my own take-command success. I then neatly inserted several spoonsful of squash into her mouth, and I held it shut, like every good father would do. "Go ahead and swallow it," I ordered. "I'm holding on until you do." She made a decision at 11 months old. She decided to die by holding her breath rather than swallow. I totally lost control and exploded. "Go ahead and die. You're not the only child. Before you die, you'll swallow." And I glared back at her, pinching her mouth shut even more firmly. She made a second decision. She decided to make a squash transfer. As I squeezed tightly, I could feel the pressure build up in her cheeks like Mount St. Helens. I had created the nozzle effect, and like linear acceleration, a steady stream of propelled squash came out the compressed opening in her mouth and up my nose, deep into my nasal pituitary area, and I stopped breathing. I bellowed like a bull and fell convulsing on the floor, in my flight suit. My wife, hearing the commotion, tiptoed back in and smiled sweetly. "What happened, Top Gun?" she said. I said, "Nothing. She doesn't like strained squash. Don't make a big deal about it." You see, my daughter had decided very early in life that she didn't like squash and wouldn't eat it. She's grown up now and flown the nest, but to this day, she doesn't like the taste of any kind of squash. But then, that's her choice, isn't it? You know, many children learn how to control their parents' lives as well, long before they learn how to talk in complete sentences. If whining gets attention and goodies, the whining continues. Children always do that for which they're rewarded. I saw a 5-year-old boy terrorist on a recent flight. He wouldn't sit down in his seat with his seatbelt fastened until his mother and his father gave him their 2 pieces of chocolate cake for dessert, too. But you and I are not victims of the winds of fate. We are steering our ships. We are not puppets dangling from the strings of our heredity and environment. I know many individuals who have to work late all the time, as if the company or their bosses made them. You and I decide to work late sometimes because there are important things we want to get done. People who have to do things usually resent doing them, or they're not happy doing them, and they're not effective performers or producers. If you feel you have to do anything in life, in that sense, you're irresponsible in that act. Responsible self-control is the path to mental health and frequently to physical health as well. Current research into biobehavior and biofeedback programs has verified the human potential for the control of body functions and brainwave emissions. Through specialized training and discipline, it's possible and maybe even practical for us to control our pulse rate, our threshold of pain, our brainwave frequencies, and other body functions as a means of positive health maintenance for the future. Today, clinics throughout the world are teaching people how to raise their body temperature to help prevent the onset of a migraine headache, how to dilate their arteries to permit a greater blood flow to the heart, and how to relax muscles and nerve endings. I worked with Olympic athletes to help them prepare for peak performance, using a combination of biofeedback and guided imagery. The next generation of astronauts, who will build our permanent space stations and new orbiting cities, they're training their minds to prevent the onset of motion sickness that is common on space flights due to zero-gravity conditions that are present during travel in outer space. You know, you and I exert much more voluntary control over what we thought were involuntary body functions and events in life than we ever imagined. This is known as responsibility psychology, and it fits right in with our own spiritual beliefs and sowing and reaping. It holds that irresponsibility and valuelessness lead to abnormal behavior, neuroses, and mental deterioration. The treatment for individuals suffering from these symptoms includes showing them that they need not be hung up on the past, but are responsible for their present actions as well as their future behavior. When neurotic individuals are helped to assume personal responsibility, the prognosis for recovery is good. So the winning human beings realize that everything in life is volitional. Even being alive is a choice. Everything in life you and I decide to do because it is profitable to those we care about and good for ourselves. Some choose evil, some choose good. Some choose pleasure without purpose. Others choose purpose which brings pleasure and well-being. You don't have to work. You can choose revolving unemployment or handouts. You don't have to pay taxes. You can live in a tax haven or go to prison for tax evasion. You don't even have to fix dinner or have children or even get up in the morning. Many people do none of the above. You decide to do the things you do, not out of compulsion, but because they're beneficial to you and they're the best choices among the alternatives available to help you toward your goals. So the high achievers in life and the real winners are wide open to choices, and they constantly look for a better way to live. In his excellent book, Self-Renewal, John Gardner states that winning individuals do not leave the development of their potential to chance. They pursue it systematically, and they look forward to an endless dialogue between their potentialities and the claims of life. Not only the claims they encounter, but the claims they invent. And daily, thousands are finding that there's a bright new world out there to be discovered, and they're demonstrating the truth of Gardner's statement that we don't even know we've been in prison until we've broken out. We're not only victims of habit in a very real sense. Each of us becomes a prisoner of hundreds of restrictions of our own making. Teenagers have a strong need to conform to the standards of their group. While they may feel that their special way of grooming is an act of independence, on the contrary, their styles and activities adhere very strictly to the peer group code. Those who refuse to be responsible for their own deeds, looking to others for their behavior cues, they've not reached responsible maturity, and unfortunately, many adults spend their entire lives at this level of immaturity. As we grow into adulthood, we make decisions that progressively narrow our opportunities and alternatives. We select only a few friends, out of the thousands with whom we rub elbows every day. And these friends are usually people with whom we agree, and thus we limit the input of fresh ideas. We choose our educational level, which in turn determines to a great extent our jobs and our associates, and from day to day we seek the path of least resistance, comfortable in our safe, established ways. The responsible winners look to the shackles that they've placed on themselves by apathy and by lack of imagination, and in a moment of truth, they decry their predicament and make a declaration of independence. They assert their option to choose and assume their rightful role of personal responsibility. Famed anthropologist, sociologist, the late Margaret Mead, called personal responsibility our most important evolution, and the notion that we are the product of our environment our biggest sin. You know, there should be a statue of responsibility standing in San Francisco Bay to match the Statue of Liberty, because there can be no liberty or freedom without responsibility. We will be free only as long as we can use freedom responsibly. The law of cause and effect is forever the ruler in our lives. Here are some techniques for developing a winning attitude of positive self-control, because it's so important to realize that you're driving. First, eliminate the words I have to and I can't from your vocabulary. Get rid of them. There's nothing you have to do. Second, list alternative choices to your current habits, especially those habits you don't care for. Put some new choices down on paper. Third, take the credit and the blame for your decisions openly, but especially take the credit because you got yourself there. Fourth, affirm the self-talk that my rewards in life will always match my service. And fifth, learn how to relax and take more control of your body. Practice some deep relaxation methods and study and learn more about biofeedback techniques. Take greater voluntary control of your involuntary body functions. Learn how to relax your muscles to get rid of tension. Learn how to elevate your skin temperature to get rid of headaches. Learn how to relax and elevate your temperature to increase your blood flow and reduce your heart rate. And set a specific time each week to initiate some action letters and action phone calls in your own behalf. Because you see, the winners in life don't wait for invitations to succeed. They make them happen. In other words, losers do let it happen, and winners do make it happen. So put on paper and create your own horoscope for life. Positive self-control is the attitude that you take responsibility for causing your own effects in your life. creation of a new self-image. The art of visualization or mental simulation is not a new concept at all. It's been around since the beginning of time because individuals have fantasized and acted out their whole life scripts in advance, just like a movie right from the beginning. During the past decade, the art of visualization has become more sophisticated. From a simple concept of positive thinking to a highly technical approach complete with computerized digital and video simulation games and programs. Current research confirms the incredible ability of the mind to achieve the currently dominant thought by instructing the body to carry out the vivid images of performance as if they'd been achieved before and are merely being repeated. One of the major reasons for many individuals failing to reach their goals is that they do not understand, and if they do, they're not willing to exercise the determination and self-discipline of practicing within when they're doing without. The keys to developing new attitudes, habits, and skills are 1. The commitment to memory, usually in a relaxed or meditating environment, those specific visualizations and accompanying emotions that can override current information stored in your subconscious robot. And 2, through relentless repetition, again, and again, the penetration and storage of these new inputs into your robot self-image, resulting in the creation of a brand new self-image about that particular act. True self-discipline is telling yourself over and over with words, pictures, concepts, and emotions that you are winning each important victory now. So the winners practice in and out of the office and on and off the playing field. They learn new information, correct information, and then they visualize it, and they simulate each experience they want to achieve. Every winner I've ever met in every walk of life, male or female, young or old, uses the technique of visualization or mental simulation every day in his or her imagination. As former chairman of our Olympic sports psychology program, I met a world champion Russian figure skater, and she told me, "You know, Dennis, I rarely fall because I practice each sequence in my imagination at night with my eyes closed, and I could successfully perform my entire routine blindfolded without hesitation." From former Olympic skiing stars like Billy Johnson, Debbie Armstrong, and the Mayer twins, to all of the marvelous European champions, they've all learned that mental simulation is an excellent way to practice skiing and gain confidence. In your mind, close your eyes, feet together, weight properly balanced, correct knee position, down the fall line, navigate the moguls, feel the crisp exhilaration, the wind, the speed, the open freedom of doing it all yourself. For champions, it's the winning edge. For beginners, it's a great way to conquer fear. After all, in your imagination, you never fall. All of the great golfers like Jack Nicklaus and Greg Norman and Pat Bradley and Kathy Baker, every time they miss a shot, they immediately replay it in their imaginations. And tennis greats like Martina Navratilova and Boris Becker, they're simulation masters. You know, some time ago when Jack Nicklaus won the Masters golf tournament in his middle 40s, a veteran jockey was simulating while he watched Nicklaus and his son march up the 18th fairway toward the victory celebration in the coveted green jacket. As he watched the TV coverage, riding legend Willie Shoemaker said to himself, "If Jack Nicklaus can win the Masters at his age, then I can reach inside myself and win the Kentucky Derby one more time at over 50 years of age." The simulation once again came true as old Willie the Shoe stood in the real winner's circle in Louisville on Derby Day. So the winners in life simulate and practice winning. In other words, they take their successes and build on those. They practice as if they were first, even if their challenge is a first for mankind, because it gets to be a habit with them. The astronauts are the best living examples of winning self-discipline. I had the good fortune to study and observe the Apollo Moon Program astronauts, and I watched the crews playing Let's Pretend We're Going to the Moon. You see, no one had ever done it before. Who other than Jules Verne or Isaac Asimov really dreamed it possible? Astronauts spend years engaged in mental simulation. They practice bobbing up and down in a rubber life raft at sea, responding to the feeling of weightlessness so they'd be experienced in outer space. Then they went to the desert and practiced with a simulated lunar excursion module, as if they were landing it on the surface of the moon. Hour after hour, month after month, year after year, they memorized and simulated the exact theoretical steps with hundreds of critically vital sequences that NASA scientists had imagined and computed would take them safely to the moon and back. And then Neil Armstrong, after 300 practice sessions, took the first step and transmitted his reactions back to Mission Control in Houston. Houston, the Eagle has landed. That's one small step for a man and one giant leap for mankind. But he also radioed back, it was beautiful, just like our drills. You know, I remember sitting next to a woman on a recent flight to Chicago who was making a weird, high-pitched humming sound with her eyes closed. I turned the overhead air nozzle on her face, and I asked her if she wanted me to call a stewardess to come to her aid. She retorted indignantly, "I beg your pardon. I'm an oboist for a symphony orchestra, and I'm practicing for tonight's performance." I thought that was weird, but she thought I was weird for interrupting her, and she said, "Now, if you'll excuse me, I'll continue the performance." Perhaps the most riveting example of winning self-discipline that I've ever seen has been exposed to you and me through the experience of our POWs returning from Vietnam. Through the joy and heart-rending tearful reunions with families those many years ago, did you come to understand the self-discipline in action? Did you hear or did you read about the prisoners' habit patterns in practice sessions during those 3 to 5 to 7 years of deprivation and boredom? What would you do if you were locked up with no end in sight? Would you sleep? Would you read? Would you do push-ups? Would you get depressed a lot? Would you feel sorry for yourself? Would you resent the folks back home? Or would you, as most of them did, make prison camp a self-improvement retreat? Several of our POWs made guitars out of wooden sticks and strings, and although their crude instruments made no sound at all, those who knew how to play practiced from memory, listening in their imaginations. They taught each other many new chords and finger positions and songs, and some POWs who had never held a guitar before are now accomplished flamenco guitarists. 7 years is a long time to practice. And other POWs at the Hanoi Hilton, they fashioned piano keyboards by taking a flat board and pencil sketching the keys' actual size. Although their Steinways were silent and unplayable, they practiced day after day and enjoyed their favorite selections. And others practiced typing on imaginary typewriters and came back at 40 words a minute without an error the first time they had ever typed on a real IBM typewriter. Physical fitness abounded in the prison camps. When there was nothing else to do, they did sit-ups. And one POW now holds the world's record, 4,500 sit-ups without resting. I'll never forget the story of Air Force Colonel George Hall, who played an imaginary round of golf every day during his 5.5 years as a POW in North Vietnam. In his 8x8 cell, in black pajamas and bare feet, Colonel Hall played his best rounds of golf. You see, he'd been a 4 handicapper back home at the club, which many shot in the middle 70s. But in his mind, he played every shot, every club. He teed up every ball. He replaced every divot. He pulled out the flag on the green. He studied the break and putted down. Every game he'd ever played well in the past, and every course he'd not yet played, but only seen on television. This message is on the winning attitude of positive self-esteem, and self-esteem is the single most important quality of a winning human being. It's that deep down inside the skin feeling of your own worth. You know, I like myself. I really do like myself. Given my parents, my physical looks, and my limitations, and my lifestyle, my background, I'm kind of glad I'm me. In fact, I'd rather be me than anyone else living at any other time in history. But I'm not conceited. In fact, conceit is God's gift to shallow people. This positive self-talk is the verbalization of inner value of a winner. And positive self-talk is the key to developing positive self-esteem. The winners in life have developed very strong beliefs of self-worth and self-confidence. They weren't necessarily born with these good feelings, but as with every other habit, they learned to like themselves through practice. Some individuals are born with much more going for them at the start. They have wealthy parents or beautiful parents or talented and intelligent parents. And many children in their early years have been encouraged and nurtured by winning parents and outstanding teachers and coaches and friends who gave them early feelings of self-esteem. And this is perhaps the most important quality of a good parent and also in a good business leader, the positive encouragement of their children and employees toward the development of self-worth. But there's an amazing historical pattern that is almost contradictory, and that's the pattern that some of the offspring of the richest, most beautiful, most talented people have become losers or lazy, unable to live up to their heritage, unable or not caring enough to accept themselves or perform effectively in society on their own. This may be because they had so much going for them at the start that they developed no inner drive to take them forward. And yet some of the offspring of the most backward, discouraging beginnings have grown into outstanding winners and top achievers in every walk of life. Out of adversity can come greatness. In the losers and low achievers in life, an attitude of low self-esteem seems to be at the root of their problem. Recent studies of terrorists, skyjackers, and assassins of world leaders have shown that these aggressors are very likely to be loners with extremely low self-esteem, and the same is true with most criminals. It's been said that John Dillinger, the notorious criminal, ran into a farmhouse and repeatedly told the occupants, "My name is John Dillinger. My name is John Dillinger. I'm not going to hurt you. I just wanted you to know that my name is John Dillinger." A terrorist with no positive inner values and a fanatic disregard for others, driven by hate instead of love, feels he has to kill important leaders or innocent bystanders to make a media event and feel worthy of attention. What a terrible, pathetic tragedy. And thieves lacking in self-esteem steal others' belongings to make up for their own lack of values and inadequacies. And child abusers and wife beaters, they hide behind an angry mask of aggression to intimidate those vulnerable family members that gives them as bullies a false sense of power. But people like Golda Meir and Madame Curie and Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Edison and Mother Teresa and Jonas Salk all have mentioned early feelings of worth and of their desire to pass their valuable service on to others. The studies of high-performance individuals verify again and again that positive self-esteem is the key ingredient. Studies of business managers and sales personnel attest to the same ingredient. Salespeople who doubt their own self-worth have only temporary success, if they ever even get off the ground. And managers lacking in self-esteem seem to plateau very quickly or become paper shufflers. But the real top producers in business always seem to feel good about themselves because they realize that the measure of success in life is not so much based on the external conditions as it is with the deep-seated belief in one's own worth. Of all of our judgments through life, none is more important than the estimate we place on ourselves, according to our own internal standards. To develop an even higher degree of positive self-esteem, winners learn to understand that self-development is a lifetime program. As we were growing up, many of us played an inferior role to the adults in our lives. We were told what to do and what not to do. We were constantly reminded of our shortcomings, and we were told, "Don't always interrupt, and children should be seen and not heard. You're not old enough to do that. Here, let Dad show you how it's done." This bombardment can take its toll and can grow into the troubled teens and the generation gap if it's practiced continually. The low achievers in life seem to water and cultivate the early seeds of inferior feelings with their own imaginations, and they develop strong, prickly weeds which stick and irritate them for many years to come. You know, I've read about a native tribe in South America whose people have been dying prematurely of a strange malady for many generations. It was finally discovered that the disease was caused by the bite of an insect, which lives in the walls of their adobe homes. The natives have several possible solutions. They can destroy the insects with an insecticide, they can destroy and rebuild their homes, they can move to another area where there are no such insects, or they can continue to live and die early, just as they have done for generations. And you know, they've chosen to remain as they are and die early. They've taken the path of no change and least resistance. And many people in life have a similar attitude about personal development. On the one hand, they know that learning brings about change, but on the other hand, they seem to resist change. They know that many people have overcome great obstacles to become great, but they can't imagine it happening to them. And so they resign themselves to be the also-rans in life, wishing and envying away their lives. These low achievers learn the habit of concentrating on their failures and all the negative events in their lives, with self-talk that seems to reinforce this losing cycle. Because they're controlled by external standards that have been set by others, they often set their sights too high to begin with, and as they fail to reach their goals again and again, these failures become set in their subconscious self-images as actual targets and real goals of their own. This explains why so many well-meaning people have what I like to call permanent potential. In other words, they almost succeed over and over again, having only temporary or fleeting success, which fails to materialize into any solid lifestyle at all. It's also interesting to note that the blowhards in life, the ones who yell the loudest for service and try to get your attention, are really calling for help because of low self-esteem. What they're really shouting is, "Help! Look at me, please." There's also a growing tendency today among many individuals to display an array of expensive possessions and outward trappings of affluence. This concentration on status symbols is more likely to say to others that the owner is actually lacking in self-esteem, rather than the fact that he's rich. It's possible that only those with a strong sense of self-worth can afford to display a modest image to the community, and they usually do. But there's another side to modesty. Humility is serving others with value. Humiliation is when you tear yourself down in the process. Many people are prevented from using their talents because they live under the mistaken belief that it's wrong to be competitive, even as a means of testing their inner abilities and develop skills. They've become fanatic in their cry that it's wrong to be rich. They have the notion that it's noble to be poor, and that poverty leads to spiritual purity. They rationalize from the scriptures that money is the root of all evil, not realizing that they're misquoting the timeless wisdom, that the love of money is the root of all evil. When money, power over others, and personal gain are the major goals in life, then moral and economic crises are not far behind, not only for the individual, but for the entire society. You see, wealth is only a source of happiness when it's employed to do good for others. If you are developing a lifestyle that is pleasing and inspiring to yourself, and if your efforts are setting a healthy example for those who look to you for guidance and encouragement, then you are indeed a wealthy person. But lest you get the wrong impression, I see nothing wrong at all in being extremely financially successful. In fact, that's what free enterprise and the psychology of winning are all about. We should have the right to earn as much as we're willing to work and create for, by providing products or services that benefit as many people as we can. And there's the key, that benefit others, not exploit them, not cater to their insecurities, to their sexual perversions or their obsessions. Financial resource is behind every scientific breakthrough, every medical technology, every industry, every book we read, and every job we have. Financial wealth is the harvest of our collective and individual productivity, and I believe in enjoying the fruits of my labors without guilt. Quality in everything is what we should invest in. It demands the highest price because it's made to function properly and to last a long time. To establish true self-esteem, we must concentrate on our own successes and forget about the failures and the negatives in our lives. The child's view must be recognized as just that, as serving a purpose in the early years, but dropping aside as we mature. Instead of comparing ourselves to others, we should compare ourselves with our own abilities, our own interests, and our own goals. And we can make a conscious effort to upgrade our lifestyle and pay more attention to personal appearance and personal habits. To develop more self-esteem, we need to base more of our actions and more of our decisions on rational thinking rather than on emotions. Emotions are the automatic product of subconscious integration, and they're passive and reactive in nature. To respond to the daily experiences and challenges of life by reacting emotionally is to nullify the wisdom and the power of the rational mind. The real winners are able to enjoy their emotions like children, probing the depths of love and excitement and joy and compassion. But the winners make the decisions that shape their lives through logic and common sense. And marriages today, of course, would be a lot stronger if they were entered into intelligently as well as emotionally. To develop and maintain high self-esteem, we need to find pleasure and pride in our current profession rather than looking at the greener pastures elsewhere. This is the philosophy of finding success in your own backyard, right now, right where you are, and making changes in your own internal standards rather than searching for external stimulation in a new environment. Although we're always seeking improvement, the real winners with positive self-esteem accept themselves just as they are at this moment. Since the perfect human being has not been discovered, we all need to live with our hang-ups and our idiosyncrasies until they can be ironed out. One of the most important qualities in successful dynamic living is that of self-acceptance, the willingness to be oneself and to live one's life as it's unfolding, accepting all the responsibility for the ultimate outcome. Perhaps the most important key to permanent enhancement of self-esteem is in the practice of positive self-talk. Every waking moment of our lives, we must feed our subconscious self-image positive affirmations about ourselves and our performances so relentlessly and so vividly that our self-images in time are modified to conform to the new higher standards. I've been conducting research on the power of words and images on the functions of the body, and I've been amazed at the tremendous influence that words and thoughts spoken at random can have on body functions that are monitored on biofeedback equipment. Since thoughts can raise and lower body temperature, secrete hormones, relax muscles and nerve endings, dilate and restrict arteries, and raise or lower pulse rate, it's obvious that we need to control the language we use on ourselves. That's why the winners in life rarely ever put themselves down in actions or in words. Losers fall into the trap of saying, I have to, I can't, I'm a klutz, I shoulda, woulda, coulda, mighta, oughta, if only I'd, if only I'd, I'll try, and I wish. And the most famous losing line of all, yeah, I know, but, or just, yeah, but. Winners use constructive self-talk every day. I want to, I can, I'm feeling better now, I'm improving, next time I'll get it right, I choose, I look forward to, I'll do it. One great indicator of our opinion of ourselves is the way we can accept a compliment. It's incredible how many of us tend to discount our worth and belittle ourselves when others try to pay us value. In my more unsuccessful early years, I had real trouble handling compliments. When I think back, it went something like this. Gee, Dennis, that's a good-looking suit. Is it new? My answer? No, I was going to give it to the Goodwill. Gee, thank you very much, Dennis, for what you did for our son. And my response? Tell him it was nothing. You know, I'm sure they thought, gee, we thought it was special, till he said it was nothing. And I remember starting my speaking career, the hardest thing was to tell clients how much money I was worth. They used to ask me, how much do you charge to speak, Dennis? And I would hunch my shoulders and reply, how much can you afford? And they'd respond, well, we don't have a very big budget. And, of course, I'd then panic, sensing impending rejection, and I'd blurt out, oh, don't worry about your budget. I can fit into the smallest budget. And they would respond, too bad, Dennis. We wanted somebody better than that for our keynote speaker. They brought me an expensive present years ago for my birthday. And after opening it in front of the office staff and my boss, I remember saying with some embarrassment, oh, you guys, you shouldn't have. You spent way too much on me. And I can just imagine my boss thinking to himself, I guess we did spend too much. Maybe I'll forget about his raise, too. He's probably not worth that much money and would be uncomfortable with a promotion of that size. You see, the problem with humorous humiliation and self-degrading remarks is that it not only tells others that you don't feel valuable, It tells your robot self-image, which is always recording, that these negative barbs are your real self-opinion, and they're stored as fact forever. People buy perceived value. You only sell you. The value of the seller is what influences the buyer. People's opinion of you is mostly based on your own implied and stated opinion of yourself. We talk ourselves into and out of every failure and every success. Positive self-esteem is the quality of simply saying, thank you, and accepting any value that is paid to you by others. Now let's review a few basic reminders that will keep your self-esteem up in the winning cycle. First, keep your self-talk affirmative in your business and at home. Because remember, your robot is recording every word. Second, accept all compliments with thank you. Third, dress and look your best at all times. Fourth, enjoy volunteering your own name first in initiating phone calls and in meeting new people. Fifth, develop the habit of sitting up front in seminars and meetings. Sixth, walk tall in a relaxed but faster pace. You know, winners really do because they know where they're going. Seventh, accept and enjoy yourself right now. Feel good when you indulge in some selfish activity that pleases just you. Eighth, set your own internal standards. Don't compare yourself to others. Ninth, keep a self-development plan ongoing at all times. Read, listen to cassettes, put down on paper the knowledge you'll require, the behavior modification you'll achieve, and the changes in your life which will result. And 10th and finally, remember the deep down feeling of your own worth is the single most important winning quality. Not just pride in what you've done, but self-dimension takes the psychology of winning off the shelf and out into the universe. The greatest example of self-dimension a winner can display is that quality of earning the love and respect of other human beings. The real psychology of winning in life does not mean cutting the legs off or standing victoriously over a fallen enemy, because winning self-dimension is extending a strong hand to one that is reaching or groping or just trying to hang on. The winners know that there will be no lasting peace on earth until there is a piece of bread in every mouth. Winners create other winners without exploiting them. They plant shade trees under which they know they'll never sit. They know that true winning in life for the human race is when caring and sharing people help even one other individual to live a better life. Self-dimension begins with the inner circle, the family. Is your family a winning team, Or is it a chicken outfit that the kids can hardly wait to get out of? Are your personal relationships precious to you, or have you lost touch, except for holidays, anniversaries, reunions, and parties? I know a community leader who was busy speaking at evening meetings while his kids were stealing car stereos. You see, winners get it together with their loved ones, with their friends, and with the community in which they live. They also love their careers, but they're not married to them. Winners vote, and they care about the management and its effectiveness and its fairness and its honesty in their cities and in their states and in the nation as well. Winners live a well-rounded life. They build their spheres of relationships with evenly distributed emphasis. Are you a financial success with plenty of money to spend, but no time for your kids? Losers try to buy love and trust, and they fail every time. Do you spend all your time with your family, but not enough time earning enough to care for them? Do you have a winning scout troop as an outside activity, but a losing, neglected family at home? Are you pretty or macho externally, and shallow and egotistical internally? Does your sphere of life have all the pressure at one point? If it does, it could burst. The losers in life have the philosophy of do it to others before they do it to you. They have the I win and you lose attitude. And one of the most infamous self-made men who nearly ruled the world by using self-image and self-direction to achieve his goals became the greatest loser in history. He was Adolf Hitler. When he was a young billboard paper hanger, he convinced a few loyal followers that he was destined to become the Fuhrer of the Third Reich. He won every battle at the expense of other human beings, and he lost the whole ball game in the end, becoming one of the greatest human tragedies in modern history. Adolf Hitler was a pathetic example of low self-esteem transformed into a grossly distorted self-dimension of do it to others before they do it to you. The real winners in life practice the double win attitude. If I help you win, then I win too. I win, and you win. And they realize that it's not nice to fool Mother Nature either, because nature is innocent and abundant, but very unforgiving. We've exploited her resources, and she's responding like a mirror, reflecting our gluttony and plunder with dwindling resources, pollution, unclean air, unsafe water, toxic food, and cancerous byproducts of technology. As we change our environment to suit our short-range ambitions, we may be risking the very survival of the human race. And therefore, real positive self-dimension is an understanding of the vulnerability of the life process and the delicate balance of ecology. The winners remember that those who owned the earth for thousands of years may be in the Hall of Fame of the extinct. They know that New York could become Tyrannosaurus Rex, and Los Angeles the woolly mammoth or mastodon, unless they cherish the natural environment and put back at least as much as they take out of the earth. And winners take their cues from their friends, the animals, as well. They know what sealskin coats and fancy furs of ocelot can mean to future generations. Someday, when SeaWorld's long gone dry, and all the birds have flown, and all the fish are gone, or on your dinner table, and all the animals are rubberized, or polyester foam, available exclusively on stage at Disney World, someday a group of wise men will deduce and calculate that what befell the animals could well be human fate. Someday, if we're not careful, we may find in some museum a glass display that lights up when you press the rail, complete with tape-recorded spiel that tells in 30 seconds of the day when man and woman roamed the planet Earth with their beloved friends, the animals. Self-dimension, fitting in, drawing upon the spiritual power woven intricately into every fiber of our being. Winners in life go beyond the horoscopes and stars and fortune-tellers' prophecies. They go beyond the do-it-to-yourself advice, even beyond their plastic surgeon's knife, and they live each precious golden day as if it were their last. They build for the future, and they learn from the past. Positive self-dimension is being in harmony with the divine order that shapes the entire universe. It is seen in the perfection and in the beauty manifested in nature, and recognizes the imperfection of man's attempt to reshape nature in his own image. Winners are able to put their own lives into perspective with other human beings, learning from past generations, and open to the idea that other forms of life, possibly more advanced, may be present in the outer reaches of this galaxy or other galaxies beyond. Winners with their positive self-dimension, most importantly, have a keen awareness of the value of time, which once spent is gone from their lives forever. Winners seem to understand the concept which I call close encounters of the fourth kind. Close encounters of the fourth kind have nothing to do with UFOs or Star Wars. The fourth dimension is time, and time is forever the ultimate ruler in each of our own lives. When we were children, time stood still. It took forever for Christmas and summer vacation to arrive. Our 21st birthday was always way out in the future, and then it came and went. A close encounter of the fourth kind is a life experience in which you come face to face with the reality that there are no timeouts, no substitutions, no replays. That it's not a rehearsal or a practice game, but it's truly the Super Bowl, World Cup, or big game every day. And this is not merely a cliche with the winner. It's a sobering understanding that the clock never stops. Your encounter may be a near miss on the freeway. It could be the loss of a close friend or a serious illness in the family, or something as simple as a high school or college reunion, or an encounter with an old family photo album, or even a new look at yourself in your own bathroom mirror. I went to my 30th high school reunion not too long ago, and it was a sobering experience. If you haven't been to your own 20th or 30th high school reunion, don't go. They're close encounters of the worst kind. You'll see old people who claim to be your classmates. The cheerleaders look like the refrigerettes. The most likely to succeed didn't. The curly-headed guy in my English class is as bald as Marvelous Marvin Hagler or Telly Savalas. The shy girl in my speech class is a trial attorney. The guy who was afraid of heights is an astronaut. It just doesn't compute anymore. All my old friends had to look at my name tag with their reading glasses on, and they still couldn't put the name with the face. I told them all I travel a lot and get jet advance instead of jet lag. Winners learn from each of these close encounters. Is for a common level of understanding profitable to the other person or the rest of the group. That's the best they can hope for. There are some fundamental consistent patterns that winning human beings follow in this practice of positive self-projection. First, winners always look like winners, at their best. They know the clock is always running, that the bird of time is on the wing, and they feel that since there's no time to lose, why not put their best foot forward? Winners respect the fact that we as people usually project on the outside how we really feel about ourselves on the inside. For example, when we aren't feeling well physically, we don't seem to look as well at the skin or surface level either. And correspondingly, when we don't feel good about ourselves emotionally or mentally, we don't seem to make a very good impression with our looks, our personal grooming, or clothing habits. Studies have shown the definite correlation between looking good and success in life. A recent Harvard study pointed out that people who feel unattractive as judged by themselves and their peers tend to suffer from feelings of loneliness and rejection and isolation. And school children who look good are actually treated better not only by their classmates, but by their teachers as well. The term good-looking, as we're using it here, doesn't necessarily mean beautiful or handsome like a movie star, because other studies have shown that some of the most beautiful young people physically are less satisfied, less well-adjusted, and less happy in later life. But what can we learn from these insights? First, while we have no choice over the genes that we've inherited, and thus are stuck with our general shape and our structure and our skin, it's to our advantage to take care of our health and appearance and to do what we can to enhance what we've got, because like it or not, we'll be judged by our looks with an instant and lasting impression. And second, since we behave according to the way we think we look, rather than the way we actually look to others, those of us who can learn to be fairly satisfied with our features are way ahead of the game as far as being real winners in the game of life. In today's cosmetic, chemical, and plastic society, there's a real need for internal value when we consider the true meaning of positive self-projection. We seem to be taking a good thing, which is doing the best with what we've got, and going overboard with self-indulgence in an attempt to buy the fountain of youth or superficial happiness. We know, of course, that the kind of house, car, clothing, and possessions that we show off to the world is our attempt to tell others who we are. But more important than telling others who we are is that our expressed standards of living serve to remind us ourselves who we are. But in today's world of easy credit, in what some have called the plastic age because of the flood of credit cards and the ease with which they can be obtained and used, anyone can arrange to display a sports car or a powerboat or a motorhome in front of his or her home. But the true winners project success without flaunting it. The winners may not always be able to afford to buy the very best and most expensive of everything, but they always do the very best with what they've got and with what they can afford, knowing that the world is looking. So we don't have to be rich or spend a fortune to project the look of a winner. All it takes is a little extra effort and time in personal grooming. A good appearance is the way to stop people who are important to us and gain their attention long enough to project our inside value, kind of like a good book among the thousands available on the bookshelf. Another important point in winning self-projection is the way in which we introduce ourselves to others. It sounds so basic, almost silly. Winners in nearly every first encounter, whether in person or by telephone, lead by giving their own name first. Hello, my name is Denis Waitley. As simple as it may seem, by stating our own name up front in a positive, affirmative manner, we're projecting self-worth and giving others immediate reason to accept us as someone important to remember. Winners get in touch by extending their hand first, knowing it's a time-proven way of paying value and respect to others. And along with the warm handshake, winners use direct eye contact and a warm, open smile to project interest in communication. Nothing marks the loser so clearly as shifty, wandering eyes, unable to look straight into our own, but looking down in a way as if to say, I can't be straightforward with you because it's too uncomfortable. And nothing marks a winner so clearly as a relaxed smile and a face that volunteers his or her own name and enjoys it while extending his or her hand to yours and looking directly into your eyes. Winners learn the art of projecting themselves through active listening. Once they introduce themselves, they become the listeners. They know that listeners learn a great deal, while talkers learn nothing. That's why we have 2 eyes, 2 ears, and only 1 mouth, so we can observe and listen more than we talk. And winners ask questions when they do speak. They draw the other person out. They ask for examples. They ask for feedback. They ask others to put it in other words, and they feed back what others have said for clarity and understanding. Winners know that paying value to others is the greatest communication skill of all. Earl Nightingale, one of the greatest self-development philosophers of our time, calls this unique skill the "I'll make them glad they talk with me" attitude. This is a great idea that's so simple it's almost deceptive. We have to examine it carefully to understand how it works and why. "I'll make them glad they talk with me" is an attitude that can become a whole way of life when winners face a prospect or an adversary or a potential friend. When they pick up a telephone, their attitude is service-oriented and not self-oriented. Their concern is for the other person and not themselves. When we have someone else's interest at heart, not just our own, the other person can sense it. They may not be able to put it into words just why they feel that way, but they do. On the other hand, people get an uneasy feeling when they talk with a person who has only his or her own interest in mind and not theirs. There's an excellent reason why we get these feelings about people. It's known as nonverbal communication. It's the old business of who you are speaks so loudly, I can't hear what you're saying. And it's tremendously important to all of us in self-projection. We communicate by means of some 700,000 nonverbal signals. Now, when we consider the limited vocabulary of the average person, it's easy to understand why nonverbal communication has more effect than most of us had ever realized. People, whether they know it or not, telegraph their intentions and feelings. Whatever goes on the inside seems to show on the outside. We receive most of these nonverbal communications below the conscious level of thinking. Our subconscious robot-like minds evaluate them and then serve them up to us as feelings based on our past experience. When we adopt the "I'll make them glad they talk with me" attitude, this idea of helping the other people solve their problem, we have their interest at heart. Then the feelings they receive agree with what they hear us say, and the climate is just right for all of us to benefit. Everybody wins with this attitude. So winners listen to the whole person. They observe body language, realizing that folded or crossed arms sometimes means a defensive or introverted listener. They understand that hands on the hips or active gesturing can mean an aggressive attitude. And winners watch the eyes, which can look down or away in self-consciousness or guilt, or which can flare or pinpoint in surprise or anger. Winners listen to the extraverbal messages too, the tone of voice, the tremor, the nervous laugh. The winners in business and personal relationships and in marriage take 100% of the responsibility for success in the communication process. In other words, winners never meet you halfway or go 50-50. As listeners, winners take 100% of the responsibility for hearing what you mean, and as talkers, winners take 100% of the responsibility for being certain that you understand what they're saying. By giving examples, by asking you for feedback, by putting what they say in different words, they can make it easy for you to gain the true intent of their communication. And winners use the KISS formula. KISS in communications means keep it straightforward and simple. Winners project in clear, concise, simple language, and they use words and examples that don't evoke a double meaning or a hidden agenda. And last and most importantly, winners in life project constructive, supportive ideas. They're neither cynical nor critical. Winners accept another viewpoint as being valid even if it is diametrically opposed to their own beliefs. A winner says, I appreciate and understand your position. However, I may feel differently, and if so, I'd like to tell you why my position may be different from your own." When Will Rogers said, I never met a man I didn't like, I'm sure he didn't mean that he approved of all the traits and characteristics of every man he met, but he always found something he could admire in everyone, because he knew that we get back from people what we give them. If we want to be loved, we must first be lovable in our self-projection. Think back to the people who've had the most influence on you. You'll likely find that they were people who really cared about you, your parents, or a good teacher, a business associate, a good friend, someone who really was interested in you. And the only people you'll influence to any great degree in your life will be the people you care about. When you're with people you care about, their interests and not yours will be the uppermost thing in your mind, and this is most evident in marriage and parenthood. But it's also true in every other area of our lives. It's been said that marriage is not looking at each other, but looking in the same direction together. And this is just as relevant in other areas of our lives as it is in marriage. It's not looking at each other, but looking in the same direction together that counts. Our success in getting along with others and in communicating effectively with them depends upon this same principle. It depends solely upon our ability to help other people solve their problems. This is winning self-projection. The winners say, "I'll make you glad you talk with me," and to a winner you'll say, "You know, I like me best when I'm with you." The true psychology of winning is gained in projecting the 10 qualities of the total winner. Number 1, project an attitude of positive self-expectancy. Be optimistic and enthusiastic about yourself. Remember the basis for psychosomatic health, that life is a self-fulfilling prophecy and that the body manifests what the mind harbors. Look at problems as opportunities. Since you usually get what you expect in life, expect the best for you. Number 2, project that action quality of positive self-motivation. Remember that since you become what you think about most, that you're moving constantly in the direction of your currently dominant thoughts. Remember that lasting change is based upon a burning desire that has been internalized by you into an inner commitment. Since fear and desire are the two most powerful motivators in our everyday lives, go for the rewards of success, and don't try to go away from the penalties of failure. You become permanently slim, not by trying to think of losing weight, but by thinking thin and moving toward your desired weight. In business, project what you want. Don't point out what you don't want to happen. Number 3, project the winning attitude of a positive self-image. Realize once and for all that your imagined self is either your life's achieving mechanism or your self-limiting handicap. Your self-image is like a thermostat or a robot autopilot. Change the setting of the image, and your behavior or performance will automatically seek the level you've set. Your self-image can't distinguish right from wrong or truth from fantasy. So see the image of that person you'd most like to become, and remember that imagination really does rule your world. Number 4, project your self-image into specific goals with an action plan of positive self-direction. Consider the real power of purpose. Set lifetime goals, as soon as possible goals, time priority goals, and concentrate on your most important daily goals. Write them down, no distraction. Check them off. Set them incrementally, just out of reach, but not out of sight. Number 5, project the winning attitude of positive self-control. Winners make it happen, while losers let it happen. Take full responsibility for causing your own good effects. Make the decisions, and exercise the choices that are open to you. And 6, project your self-control in the action quality of positive self-discipline. Remember that habits start like cobwebs, as flimsy notions at first, and then with practice become like unbreakable cables to shackle or strengthen our lives. Practice winning every single day. Simulate the correct information to win with relentless inner visualization over and over again. Practice within when you're doing without. And 7, project that attitude of positive self-esteem as your single most important human quality. Get that deep down inside the skin feeling of your own worth. Use positive self-talk every day. Learn to accept every compliment with a simple thank you, and accept yourself as a changing, growing, deserving human being. 8, project yourself beyond yourself with positive self-dimension. Get the spirit of the double win. Create other winners too. Love yourself so you can give yourself away, and plant some shade trees under which you know you'll never sit. Learn the precious value of time. Profit from the past Set meaningful goals in the near future, but live in the now, staying away from someday I'll. And do it now, the only moment over which you have any control. 9. Project your understanding of true self-awareness in life. Tune in on all the abundance in your arenas. Recognize your unlimited potential. Be honest with yourself and with others too, and walk in another Indian's moccasins for a mile before you pass judgment on him or her. And 10, and finally, project yourself with winning communication to others. Take 100% of the responsibility for sending and receiving. Listen to the whole person. Make others say, you know, I'm glad I talk with you, and I like me best when I'm with you. So look your best at all times, and project your best self at all times. Become a total winner by putting yourself together as a total person. Remember, this is not a scrimmage. It's not a drill. There's no replay, because the psychology of winning is a way of life. It's playing the game to win, and it's got to be your Olympic competition every single day. This message is on the action quality of positive self-projection. The winning attitude of positive self-awareness is transformed into action through positive self-projection. You know, winners in life are walking, talking examples of positive self-projection. You can always spot a winner when he or she first enters a room. Winners project a kind of aura about them. They have an unmistakable presence. They have a charisma which is disarming and radiating and magnetic. They project that warm glow that comes from inside out. Most importantly, the winners are naturally open and friendly. They know that a smile is the universal language that opens doors and melts defenses and saves 1,000 words. A smile is the light in your window that tells others there's a caring, sharing person inside. And winners are aware that first impressions are powerful and create lasting attitudes, and that the old saying, you never get a second chance for a first impression, is true. They understand that interpersonal relationships can be won or lost in about the first 4 minutes of conversation. Winners have learned through experience that fairly or unfairly, people project and respond to a visceral or gut-level feeling which is nearly instantaneous. Many careers and top jobs in sales and other important transactions are decided very early in the interview or negotiation. Winners know that everyone projects and receives through a different encoding and decoding system, as if each of us had his own satellite receiver, with no one else tuned in on his exact channel or wavelength. Therefore, the winners in life realize that the best they can hope for in the communication process with others is for a common level of understanding profitable to the other person or the rest of the group. That's the best they can hope for. There are some fundamental consistent patterns that winning human beings follow in this practice of positive self-projection. First, winners always look like winners, at their best. They know the clock is always running, that the bird of time is on the wing, and they feel that since there's no time to lose, why not put their best foot forward? Winners respect the fact that we as people usually project on the outside how we really feel about ourselves on the inside. For example, when we aren't feeling well physically, we don't seem to look as well at the skin or surface level either. And correspondingly, when we don't feel good about ourselves emotionally or mentally, we don't seem to make a very good impression with our looks, our personal grooming, or clothing habits. Studies have shown the definite correlation between looking good and success in life. A recent Harvard study pointed out that people who feel unattractive as judged by themselves and their peers tend to suffer from feelings of loneliness and rejection and isolation. And school children who look good are actually treated better not only by their classmates, but by their teachers as well. The term good-looking, as we're using it here, doesn't necessarily mean beautiful or handsome like a movie star, because other studies have shown that some of the most beautiful young people physically are less satisfied, less well-adjusted, and less happy in later life. But what can we learn from these insights? First, while we have no choice over the genes that we've inherited, and thus are stuck with our general shape and our structure and our skin, it's to our advantage to take care of our health and appearance and to do what we can to enhance what we've got, because like it or not, we'll be judged by our looks with an instant and lasting impression. And second, since we behave according to the way we think we look, rather than the way we actually look to others, those of us who can learn to be fairly satisfied with our features are way ahead of the game as far as being real winners in the game of life. In today's cosmetic, chemical, and plastic society, there's a real need for internal value when we consider the true meaning of positive self-projection. We seem to be taking a good thing, which is doing the best with what we've got, and going overboard with self-indulgence in an attempt to buy the fountain of youth or superficial happiness. We know, of course, that the kind of house, car, clothing, and possessions that we show off to the world is our attempt to tell others who we are. But more important than telling others who we are is that our expressed standards of living serve to remind us ourselves who we are. But in today's world of easy credit, in what some have called the plastic age because of the flood of credit cards and the ease with which they can be obtained and used, anyone can arrange to display a sports car or a powerboat or a motorhome in front of his or her home. But the true winners project success without flaunting it. The winners may not always be able to afford to buy the very best and most expensive of everything, but they always do the very best with what they've got and with what they can afford, knowing that the world is looking. So we don't have to be rich or spend a fortune to project the look of a winner. All it takes is a little extra effort and time in personal grooming. A good appearance is the way to stop people who are important to us and gain their attention long enough to project our inside value, kind of like a good book among the thousands available on the bookshelf. Another important point in winning self-projection is the way in which we introduce ourselves to others. It sounds so basic, almost silly. Winners in nearly every first encounter, whether in person or by telephone, lead by giving their own name first. Hello, my name is Denis Waitley. As simple as it may seem, by stating our own name up front in a positive, affirmative manner, we're projecting self-worth and giving others immediate reason to accept us as someone important to remember. Winners get in touch by extending their hand first, knowing it's a time-proven way of paying value and respect to others. And along with the warm handshake, winners use direct eye contact and a warm, open smile to project interest in communication. Nothing marks the loser so clearly as shifty, wandering eyes, unable to look straight into our own, but looking down in a way as if to say, I can't be straightforward with you because it's too uncomfortable. And nothing marks a winner so clearly as a relaxed smile and a face that volunteers his or her own name and enjoys it while extending his or her hand to yours and looking directly into your eyes. Winners learn the art of projecting themselves through active listening. Once they introduce themselves, they become the listeners. They know that listeners learn a great deal, while talkers learn nothing. That's why we have 2 eyes, 2 ears, and only 1 mouth, so we can observe and listen more than we talk. And winners ask questions when they do speak. They draw the other person out. They ask for examples. They ask for feedback. They ask others to put it in other words, and they feedback what others have said for clarity and understanding. Winners know that paying value to others is the greatest communication skill of all. Earl Nightingale, one of the greatest self-development philosophers of our time, calls this unique skill the I'll make them glad they talk with me attitude. This is a great idea that's so simple it's almost deceptive. We have to examine it carefully to understand how it works and why. I'll make them glad they talk with me is an attitude that can become a whole way of life when winners face a prospect or an adversary or a potential friend. When they pick up a telephone, their attitude is service-oriented and not self-oriented. Their concern is for the other person and not themselves. When we have someone else's interest at heart, not just our own, the other person can sense it. They may not be able to put it into words just why they feel that way, but they do. On the other hand, people get an uneasy feeling when they talk with a person who has only his or her own interest in mind, and not theirs. There's an excellent reason why we get these feelings about people. It's known as nonverbal communication. It's the old business of who you are speaks so loudly, I can't hear what you're saying. And it's tremendously important to all of us in self-projection. We communicate by means of some 700,000 nonverbal signals. Now, when we consider the limited vocabulary of the average person, it's easy to understand why nonverbal communication has more effect than most of us had ever realized. People, whether they know it or not, telegraph their intentions and feelings. Whatever goes on the inside seems to show on the outside. We receive most of these nonverbal communications below the conscious level of thinking. Our subconscious robot-like minds evaluate them and then serve them up to us as feelings based on our past experience. When we adopt the I'll make them glad they talk with me attitude, this idea of helping the other people solve their problem, we have their interest at heart. Then the feelings they receive agree with what they hear us say, and the climate is just right for all of us to benefit. Everybody wins with this attitude. So winners listen to the whole person. They observe body language, realizing that folded or crossed arms sometimes means a defensive or introverted listener. They understand that hands on the hips or active gesturing can mean an aggressive attitude. And winners watch the eyes, which can look down or away in self-consciousness or guilt, or which can flare or pinpoint in surprise or anger. Winners listen to the extraverbal messages too, the tone of voice, the tremor, the nervous laugh. The winners in business and personal relationships and in marriage take 100% of the responsibility for success in the communication process. In other words, winners never meet you halfway or go 50-50. As listeners, winners take 100% of the responsibility for hearing what you mean, and as talkers, winners take 100% of the responsibility for being certain that you understand what they're saying. By giving examples, by asking you for feedback, by putting what they say in different words, they can make it easy for you to gain the true intent of their communication. And winners use the KISS formula. KISS in communications means keep it straightforward and simple. Winners project in clear, concise, simple language, and they use words and examples that don't evoke a double meaning or a hidden agenda. And last and most importantly, winners in life project constructive, supportive ideas. They're neither cynical nor critical. Winners accept another viewpoint as being valid even if it is diametrically opposed to their own beliefs. A winner says, "You know, I appreciate and understand your position. However, I may feel differently, and if so, I'd like to tell you why my position may be different from your own." When Will Rogers said, "You know, I never met a man I didn't like," I'm sure he didn't mean that he approved of all the traits and characteristics of every man he met, but he always found something he could admire in everyone, because he knew that we get back from people what we give them. If we want to be loved, we must first be lovable in our self-projection. Think back to the people who've had the most influence on you. You'll likely find that they were people who really cared about you, your parents, or a good teacher, a business associate, a good friend, someone who really was interested in you. And the only people you'll influence to any great degree in your life will be the people you care about. When you're with people you care about, their interests and not yours. As we enter the final few staging years that will launch us into the 21st century, I've never been more excited about our opportunities for winning the game of life. Winning in the 21st century will feature champions of cooperation rather than champions of competition. It's painfully true that strong national strength and defense considerations will continue, and these to prevent intimidation by dictatorships and terrorists, to assure access to world communication and transportation routes, and vital strategic resources. However, the survival of the fittest philosophy will give way to the survival of the wisest philosophy, and that's one of understanding and reason and mutual benefit agreements among all the nations of the world. Why then my unbounding optimism in the face of all this international and domestic turmoil? Well, the answer is simple. We must help each other win right now. Our very survival as a society depends upon it. There's no other option. There are too many people who affect each other's lives, too few resources, too many births, too little time, and too delicate a balance between technology and nature to ever produce winners in isolation today. We as individuals are a vital but single organ of a larger body of human beings in the world. It's as if we all feed off the same main artery for our life's blood supply, and indeed we do.